Pierre Poilievre said here in a tweet, "It's been 2 years since Ukraine woke up to the evil of an unprovoked full-scale invasion from Vladimir Putin. With unshakable resolve and determination, Ukrainian people have fought back. They haven't given up, and neither will we. Canada will always stand with Ukraine in the fight for freedom and democracy against Putin's tyranny." And if you scroll through this, a lot of conservatives were not happy with this tweet at all, not happy with the stance that he took on this, and it kind of leaves one wondering why he did. Why did he take this path? I have a couple theories, but wondering if you have any thoughts there, Reg.
I don't know. I just think that, like, know your audience. Like, whether or not you are in support of funding Ukraine or not supporting funding Ukraine, like, he has to know that his overwhelming conservative base are not in support of this. So that's where I'm finding this an interesting take. And like you said, it does scream Justin Trudeau, and everybody in the comments said that. Like, there was like talk of a uniparty, and they're like, Pierre and Justin are no different. And this is the kind of thing that will hurt him because it deviates from his hard line on all of his values and things like that. So I don't know if this was an appeal to be, to the left, to try and appeal to that group that has been calling for support for Ukraine. Whatever the strategy wasn't good. I don't think that it will help him in any way, shape, or form, because the people who don't like him aren't going to change because of a tweet, and the people who do like him might change because of a tweet, because they might go, sniff, sniff, this guy smells like a phony, and then he'll lose support that way. So I just think it was a bad play on his part. But if that's his take, then also that he's got to go with what he believes. And if that's what he believes, then he's going to have to put it out there. So yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah, it was a bit of like, it really kind of came out of left field from my perspective, just because of his different messaging of, funding Ukraine, but not funding Ukraine in terms of like, not signing the bill because they were trying to put a carbon tax on them and all that type of stuff. But it took me off guard personally, and trying to figure out what was the thought on this. The only thing that went through my mind is things got really loud in media last week over his take on the transgender stuff, about women's only spaces. And my thought was kind of what you said, is this an appeal to the left after receiving a lot of flack through the media on the transgender stuff? I think we talked about it personally. I don't think I brought this up on the show, but when I was watching his speech, I was kind of looking at how he went after the pharmaceutical industry. I was looking at how he wants to kind of solve different things in terms of bringing more tax cuts to the middle class, but as well as, alleviating the burden for small businesses. There was just kind of other things that really caught my attention in this speech. The transgender stuff, it came out in a question from the media that he kind of answered. It took about 30 seconds, and then, keep it moving, just keep moving from there. And then that was what got all the play. And I, personally, as someone who watched the whole 20-minute video, that was such a small piece of it. I was honestly stunned that had so much play last week. And so I get a feeling that this tweet is mainly coming from a perspective of, I think he felt like, or his team felt, they took a huge L last week with the transgender stuff. And I think this was an appeal back to the left side.
I think that's totally right. And I think that it was just it was weird timing, because like we all know that somebody in the States passed away. They were a transgender person. It was a result of bullying and stuff like that. And so the media was already charged for that narrative, and then to have him kind of say something against it, that's all they took from that. And which is a shame, because there was actually a lot in that speech that, like the pharmaceutical thing, like I can't wait to talk about that here in a second when we talk about Jagmeet Singh and Trudeau. But like that to me was like, ooh, that's an interesting tidbit, but it got completely washed over. But again, like throwing the support for Ukraine, like I said, I think I could totally feel for the people in Ukraine. Like it's awful, it's terrible. But at the same time, we're a country that does not have ample amounts of cash to throw around. And so I think the people are feeling that. And so your common everyday person goes, I empathize with Ukraine. I empathize with the people there, but I also see tent cities on my block. So I can't see us spending money right now on that. And you also hear the Canadian Forces talking about the fact that we don't have the military resources anymore, because we've sent them all to Ukraine, so that if there was some kind of incident, because we're hearing all the talks about the draft and everything like that that's been going all over TikTok. But what the military is saying, the Canadian military is saying, we do not have the resources right now to fund ourselves, to arm ourselves if there was a war that we got brought into. And then you have somebody say, oh, but we're going to put more support for Ukraine. I think that it kind of comes into a slap in the face of the Canadian military. And so everybody who is traditionally on the conservative side of things is going to be upset with this tweet. So just wasn't a good, wasn't a good move.
Yeah. And I think it's becoming, this sentiment is becoming more of the majority too. And people are just kind of the common sense perspective of like, yeah, we don't, like, as much as we hate what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, we don't have the funds to fund that. We can't even stand on our own 2 feet right now. Why are we even thinking of trying to help another country? And it's not us because saying, oh yeah, screw you, screw off. We hate you. That's not even what we're saying. It's just like, we just can't help you. And that's just the honest truth of it. And so, and I'm starting to see people are, even on the left, are slowly kind of drifting into that mentality and understanding as well. Had a really interesting conversation with a lefty friend of mine this past weekend where they said it in their very lefty way, but they admitted that, like, there's like, yeah, so can we talk about like all the people that are coming in? I was like, what do you mean people? What do you mean you people? That was a good joke. But I was like, what? No, what do you mean? I was like, well, there's just a lot of people coming in, and like, we don't have enough schools for them. We don't have enough like doctors for them. We don't have enough infrastructure for them. Like why don't we just, the government, take their time and like figure out and sort some things out for the people that we have here, make sure everyone's taken care of, and then we can bring more people in. Like, I'm kind of confused about that. And that was like their very polite way of saying, like, do we limit immigration without using the word immigration? And I'm starting to see that sentiment coming out more. Just, that I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for.
Reluctance?
Yeah, the reluctant narrative coming out, like admitting that this may not be for the best. And so, as you said, to have Poilievre come out and kind of go with that Ukraine narrative, I think is actually not just going to hurt him in his base. It's also going to hurt him on the other side of the aisle too.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like, the bulk majority, I think, of the center left and the bulk majority of the center right are all saying the same story now. They're all saying, like, we see that our system is fractured and is crumbling beneath us right now if we keep this ridiculous trend of immigration in, and we just can't support it. It's not that we don't want to welcome people. We can't. We're welcoming you to a party with no food, no lights, and nothing, like no walls. So it's like, what are we welcoming you to? We're taking from one crisis where you're vulnerable and bringing you to another crisis where you're vulnerable, just in a different way. And I feel like nobody likes that, especially people who are well-meaning, like I said, who are left-leaning, right-leaning, well-meaning, and who really want to help people. They just realize we don't have the capacity to help everyone right now. We're pouring from an empty cup. It's not there yet.